Let me pull up the roll call voting. Okay. You can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order and let's call roll.
Okay. I cannot see the screen while I'm taking attendance, so I do need you to come off of mute and let me know verbally if you're here. Aaliyah Armstrong. Faith Dayton. Teresa DeSimone or Todd Crabtree or anyone else from CDC.
Here.
Jacqueline Williams.
Here.
Wynn Novotny.
Here.
From Antonita Services. Joanna Olson or anyone else from McCavan.
This is Judy. I'm here.
Yeah, looks like
Okay.
Judy Popowski's here for McGavin.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Judy.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Paul Davis. Anyone from Mendocino Community Health Clinics? Karen Lovato or Naveen Bhandari? Life Post. Mendocino County Youth Project.
Amanda here.
Thank you. Judy Albert.
Here.
Paige Wolf. Paige? I knew you were here.
Yep. Sorry. Here? Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Hello?
Now I can hear you. Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Dan McIntyre or anyone else from RCHDC?
Yeah, I'm here.
But I was going to say Dan here. Okay.
Excellent. Sandra Stolfi or Will Van Zandt? We have 8 members present, which meets our current quorum. Quorum met. Okay, Dan or Jackie, to you.
You want to take it away, Dan? We just did roll call and now it's time for public comment.
Yeah, I guess. All right, any public comment? Megan, I didn't see anything listed in an email.
None received.
I didn't.
I meant Veronica. I said Megan. None received though.
Okay, I didn't receive it. She's good.
Okay.
So Veronica, we have one person on by phone.
Oh,
I think that might be Carly. Carly, is that you?
With 883 at the end.
it's Carly.
Okay, good. I just didn't want us not to recognize somebody. Alrighty.
Is there any public comment from the group that's here? Not seeing any public comment. We're going to move on to the approval of the minutes from the September 19th, 2020 board meeting. Is there any comments or corrections on those minutes? Not hearing or seeing any. We need a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Judy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jackie. Is there any further discussion on that? I'm not seeing any. Carly, roll call, please. Or Veronica.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Sorry. Do you want me to do it?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I missed the initial. Maybe you should do it because I forgot I missed the attendance.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. Okay, so when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain to approval of the September 19th, 2022 COC board minutes. Teresa,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Wind,
Abstain.
Judy, Popowski,
Yes.
Amanda Archer,
Yes.
Judy Albert,
Yes.
Sage Wolf,
Yes.
Dan McIntyre.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. We're going to go on to reports and presentations. Karen or Megan, do you have anything for the county?
Karen's not here, so I'll give a brief update on two things that have kind of confronted the county regarding homelessness in the recent past. The first is I'm not sure if members of this board were following this event at the state level, but the Governor Newsom announced a freeze on all HAP 3 funding a couple weeks ago. Because there was a level of dissatisfaction from the state of California with the goals that had been set by jurisdictions for reducing unsheltered counts in their jurisdictions. So if all of you remember, Veronica and a small team went through setting the outcome goals for our HAP 3 round of funding. And then at the board level, we had a lengthy, complicated conversation about it and kind of adjusted those goals. And those were the goals that Veronica submitted to the state for our HAP 3 round of funding. The state got all these goals from all the jurisdictions and were not happy with most of them and kind of ranked everybody in their level of happiness with the ambitiousness of their goals. And then like posted it online and then kind of said, we're freezing all the funding until you all do better. So I was like, oh God, what did we say? So the goal that we set was a reduction of 25% in our unsheltered count by 2024, which was actually the second most ambitious goal on the jurisdictions. So there was one county that set like, I don't know, Modoc, it had like 10 people in it or something, or maybe it wasn't Modoc, but it was some small jurisdiction up north that had set a goal of a reduction of 64%. And then there were like 2 or 3 that had set a goal of a reduction of 25%. And then the rest of the jurisdictions, their goals spanned the gamut up to Sacramento County, whose reduction goal was an increase of 71%. So some of the jurisdictions had what they were saying they were going to be able to do was kind of keep the growth down, but they actually had positive numbers in their ambitiousness of their goals. So overall, if you counted up what jurisdictions said they were going to do, from the state's perspective, there was an intention of reducing unsheltered homelessness by a collective 2%, which the governor and the state felt like was not acceptable for this large amount of money. So all the jurisdictions were kind of caught up in this dissatisfaction. So the governor said, I'm freezing all this money, I'm unhappy, and we're going to have a summit. And I'm only inviting the board chair and one staff person to this meeting last Friday to kind of like, I don't know, have a convening about being more ambitious. I was not able to attend that meeting because I had a family emergency at the last minute. So I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but Chairperson Supervisor Williams, so this is why it's a county update. Supervisor Williams did attend that meeting to represent Mendocino County. I don't think he had a great role to play in kind of the participation of the meeting. I haven't heard yet, but I wanted to give you all a heads up that that's what's going on at the state level. We subsequently received, as did all jurisdictions, sort of a forced commitment letter for what we were supposed to agree to for HAP round 4, which Veronica's working on right now. Part of that forced commitment letter is that we had to commit to revisiting and making our goals more ambitious. I did respond back to the state and said, our goal was pretty ambitious already. Do we really need to be more ambitious? Because I understand we were kind of caught up in the statewide statewide dismay. I haven't heard back from them yet, but that's sort of where we are. And as I was preparing for these comments this morning, I was thinking this is a little bit complicated because the states, what they are really intentional with are the jurisdictions, but HAP funding now is combined with COC as well. So I haven't quite figured out how the state intends to hold COCs accountable in the same way. So it's all kind of like a slightly political, but also like practical kind of brouhaha going on at the state level. Again, I was grateful that we had set goals that were definitely suitably ambitious. So I'm feeling good about our work. I just don't know how it's going to impact things as things unroll. And I think Veronica has a little more to add.
Yes, we didn't receive a direct response to your email inquiring about are we exempt or not, but we did get an email informing us that we are exempt from the interview requirement with Cal ICH for HAP 4. So that was their way of saying you've already met these requirements and we're gonna just check this box off for you.
That's what I appreciate that, Veronica. That's what I thought they meant, but I wasn't totally sure. So I think what we think they're saying without explicitly saying your goal is ambitious enough, they're saying you don't have to do a special meeting with us, just carry on. And so we're going to just carry on. But that is kind of what's going on. And what it has done is it highlighted HAP funding in the eyes of the Board of Supervisors. You know, I was getting a lot of like, what's this mean? You know, so it sort of brought attention to homelessness and homelessness funding, which is a good thing, and outcomes for homelessness. So there just may be a little bit more fallout from this whole discussion that we may or may not need to respond to. Any questions about that?
Megan, I just want to say, you know, I actually thought that when we set the goal at 25%, I actually thought that was rather high and ambitious for us. But, you know, I do find it really interesting that other jurisdictions, probably because of what they look at realistically, they have been able to do with their homeless population, probably just told the state, honestly, even with all this additional funding coming in, what they actually thought the outcome was going to be.
Yeah. I think there was also some miscommunication. I read a little bit more deeper into what Sacramento County was thinking. And so that if you remember with HAP, the state gave us our baseline. They gave the baseline that was based on 2019. So some of these jurisdictions knew they'd had an increase already from the baseline that was given to them by the state. So they were taking that into consideration. And then the other thing they were doing, and this might have been them being a little too practical, the time span in which we're supposed to show outcomes is 2024. But they thought they were going to be held to their 2022 PIT count. I don't really know why. So there was a little bit, I mean, I think that some jurisdictions felt like they had something to explain, but what the numbers didn't look good, but they may have had some, I don't know. I guess I don't know what they were all thinking, but there was different, different ways people were interpreting the mission. And I think for us, we thought 2024, we were taking that date as the mission date. So there was just maybe some confusion in some jurisdictions' parts. But I think it's true that jurisdictions were not setting super ambitious goals, except for us, I guess. But they were not setting ambitious goals. And I think the state has a point in saying, we have to do better.
But a lot of the communities came from the perspective of, we don't know how many people are homeless in our community. And we're going to use this funding to do better point in time counts. And when we actually do a good job, we're going to document there's way more people homeless here than what we have currently recorded. And so like communities like Sacramento, we're like, we only know a small part of it, and we're going to really get a good picture. And that means that their numbers are going to go up.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it was interesting how the outcome goals were written. Again, I went back and looked at this more closely after this because I was like, oh gosh, what? And one of our outcome goals was the percentage of the number of people accessing services. And our thinking was, well, we're going to have more people entering into HMIS, so that data is going to show more people accessing services. It doesn't necessarily mean there's more homeless, but more people getting help, so that number will grow. So there is some kind of it's a little like were people reporting on what they thought the data was going to show, or what they thought the ultimate outcome of the money was, and it was a little complicated. But I think the state is really pushing people to be aggressive and not not waste time. So that was one thing. So the second piece I wanted to, I think, I can't remember whether I updated this body on this or not, but it keeps getting, there's a lot of non-clarity about the date, but I do believe that the Board of Supervisors will be receiving a presentation on homelessness, maybe in December, but probably not. And maybe up as late as mid-January. But what the intention from the COC was to bring our kind of updated strategic plan. It wasn't a full update, but we did revise the goals and did like a status report on the goals. So bring that to the Board of Supervisors, as well as kind of a bigger picture on what's going on with homelessness in the county. The Board of Supervisors have not had a formal presentation on homelessness since 2019. So it's a pretty long time. As we get closer to that date, I will bring more information. I'm really hoping it's not December 6th because I'm not ready by then. But I wanted to give you a heads up that that's on the agenda as well. And that's it for me.
And I think there's an article on the Fresno News. I don't think it's been very made public that Newsom has released the HAP 3 funding, but I think he's giving it.
Yeah.
Shannon, do I see Shannon here? Nope, no Shannon, no Sarah, no Paul. Is there any other presentations from local jurisdictions? Not seeing. We're going to go on to strategic planning. Megan, do you have anything? I don't.
No, I do not believe we've met since our last meeting.
We have not.
No.
Dan, I know it's not a jurisdiction, but I was wondering if Lynn Scurry from Partnership Health Plan had anything to share or speak about. That might be a good time for that.
That's fine.
Or if you want to come.
No, it's fine.
Hi there. Is this a good time?
Yeah, it is good, Lynn.
So yeah, we're continuing to build out the CalAIM network, and in fact, next Monday we are convening a meeting of the CalAIM contracted housing service providers with the Sonoma County COC and Coordinated Entry System. So we're all gathering together to kind of learn about how we can begin working together more in supporting one another with the housing services. So, depending on how that meeting goes and what we learn, we would like to replicate that in Mendocino County as it's probably a little premature at this point, but as the contracts become more solidified, just really bringing everyone together to kind of set expectations. And one of the things that kind of spurred this conversation is that the COC was saying, we have some emergency housing vouchers, but we're really hesitant to use them because we don't have funds for housing case management to help those people be successful. And we said, well, that's something that is covered through CalAIM, housing tenancy services. So, we're trying to look at how we can kind of piece all the pieces of the puzzle together so that they work together in, better and more coordination. So any other questions about CalAIM? I'm not the lead on the project, but, try and be informed.
Well, I'm going to profess, hi, I'm Judy, and I'm going to profess complete ignorance about ever having heard of your agency before, Lynn. So have you been around for a while, and have you always helped with this additional support for tenants that get in and use the vouchers?
Yeah, well, we are the managed Medi-Cal organization, nonprofit organization in Mendocino and 14 other counties. So we are really, that's kind of our wheelhouse is really providing medical services. And with the state's new, new emphasis on trying to provide sort of more whole person care, we have been given some kind of new directives and new benefits that we are trying to, so we're expanding into certain other areas. And these, as part of CalAIM, the two main areas that partnership is involved with is called enhanced case management. And case management services have really not been fully covered. So this provides the opportunity to actually expand case management services to individuals who have are homeless, have severe behavioral health conditions, or really at risk for chronic medical conditions. So there's this great enhanced case management. And then coupled with that are another series of services called community supports. And that's where these housing services, along with a few others, fit. So the housing services are mainly housing navigation. So helping someone who is homeless get support to get signed up with coordinated entry, all the documents they need to be kind of in queue for housing. Another piece is housing deposits. And then that last piece is housing tenancy. When someone is newly housed, how can case management help them stay housed? And we don't provide, the health plan does not provide these services directly. We contract with those in the community to provide those services. So, and there are a few others which are really pretty interesting too. There's medically tailored meals for certain individuals. They can get delivered meals for, I think, 90 days, and then it can be expanded if they have certain types of conditions like uncontrolled diabetes. They're in treatment for cancer, COPD, some other things that are really unique that we've, never been able to do. So, but, a lot of new areas, and requires a lot more coordination because some of the community-based providers like yourselves are already doing some of these services. So we're trying to really work to contract so that you can actually get develop a funding stream for some of these services that maybe you're providing and could qualify for reimbursement, and then also trying to fill the gaps. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on CalAIM because that could be a whole nother presentation. But I think for this group, especially looking at how the enhanced case management services and those housing services can kind of fit together with what is being provided. Does that help a little bit, give you a little more background?
Yeah, that helps. And it feels like we'll need to get continued updates in terms of which agencies locally might be getting and receiving contracts, so that it will help for
Yes, I'd be
referrals, et
happy
cetera.
to do that. Yeah, because we've been working with North Coast Opportunities because we've been working with them for a number of years in other settings. They are contracted, and they're going to be one of our CBOs that are providing these housing services. And there are others that we're talking to too. Mendocino, I think the county behavioral health is contracting. We've talked to Megan, and there's many others that are also interested in contracting. And anyone who has a question about whether their organization, might be interested in providing these services, I'll put my email in the chat, and we can either connect, or I'll make sure that you connect with, one of our staff. I see there was a hand raised too. Is it Joanne?
Yeah. Hi, Lynn. My name is Joanna Olson. I'm the interim executive director for McCabe. And I just wanted to share with you that we have an ECM contract as well, a grant. And I'd really love to get together with you and talk about the project. We're just now revving ours up. Yeah. And talk about collaborating and partnering and who's doing what and where. And I have a feeling that you're going to be able to provide our team some great information that we might have missed, because we missed a lot of the early trainings that were going on with the funding cycle that we're in. So we're playing catch up, and it's been a bit of a challenge. So if we could meet with you, that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, no, that would be great. It would be one of the other staff, because like I said, I'm not an expert, but yeah, it is especially, it's a lot harder for a community-based organization who hasn't been doing claims-based billing to kind of step up, but it's, we're getting there.
I
So
think the
can set
claims-based
my-
billing might be okay for us. It's the actual services from ECM to, you mentioned, the community services piece. That was a little confusing for us because we missed the training on that.
Sure.
So we're trying to get that going. So what I'll do is I'll email you. Okay.
Great.
I don't want to take up a lot of this time from this meeting, but we'll definitely get a hold of you after the holidays. Does that sound
Yeah.
good?
And I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat for anybody else.
Okay, great. Thank
I'm
you
out of-
so
I
much.
work out of the Santa Rosa office, and I have 4 counties that I kind of is my area of focus. That's Sonoma, Marin, Lake, and Mendocino. So
Wonderful. Great. Great. Thank you so much.
I think just to, and Dan, I know we probably have to move on, but I do want to be clear that there is nobody providing ECM services in the county right now at this very moment, except for our QMC, and I'm not sure if there's any else literally doing it right now. So although there's a lot of people that are kind of in the pipeline, that service is not actually happening on the ground yet. I do want to let you all know that Adventist Health has a very ambitious project. They're planning to start, supposed to be mid-November. It hasn't quite yet. So I think that they will be really active in providing ECM services pretty soon, not just for the homeless population, but for all the populations that are quote unquote live right now.
Yeah,
and I
great.
also, yeah, I want to,
thanks, Megan. Yeah.
so there's a lot of, I still think that although there's a lot of focus on CalAIM, as there should be, and it is a really ambitious and exciting project, it's going to take some time to really kind of fall into place and get going and to have all the providers up to speed. I will be super frank, and Lynn knows this, the rate is not high, and there's going to be some adjustment for people to figure out how to realistically provide these services for the reimbursement that is given. And that'll happen over time. It's just going to take some time to get there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Mendocino County is just kind of at the starting line. But we are seeing Sonoma and Marin are, beginning to start functioning. Still at the beginning stages, but it is nice to see that things kind of coming together. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'll let you know how our meeting between the housing providers and the COC works out, but I'm excited. There's a lot of interest, and it should be very well attended.
Thanks, Lynn. Was there any other questions for Lynn? We're going to move on to Shelters and Solutions. Angelica, do you have anything?
Nope, no update.
Okay, thank you, Angelica. Sage, do you have anything on coordinating entry to search planning?
We had a meeting last week, our monthly meeting, and I've been sick, so my brain's a little fuzzy and trying to pull together what are we doing? Where are we at? We are looking at the rapid rehousing coordinated entry process that got rolled out in the beginning of the year, and we're looking to start replicating that process with our permanent supportive housing projects. So we've been talking with CDC about the PSH certificate vouchers, or that they have the certificates they have, and how we can utilize the similar process to what we've been doing with rapid rehousing with the PSH certificates, and then potentially with other PSH providers in the community. So that's in the works. There's more in the works, but I'm just really fuzzy and I'm very sorry. But that's the main thing.
Not a problem. Hope you're feeling better. Any questions for Sage? If not, we're going to move on to the next topic. Membership committee, Veronica, I don't think we met, have we? Not that I remember.
No, there's a couple membership status updates. So the committee has not met, but I received notice from Natalie Shepard with Tapestry saying that she's no longer the executive director or acting executive director. and requested that Tapestry be removed from COC references, and shared that when Novotny had been established as the interim executive director. So that's why you see the changes on the agenda, and that's why Wenda's here. Welcome. I also wanted to share, I got an email from Sandra Stolfi sharing that she will be back to her regular duties next month. And so she'll be returning soon. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Veronica. Is there any questions for Veronica's report on Veronica's report or discussion on that topic? You're not hearing anything. We're going to go down to performance measurement, Veronica.
Since Brian's absence and all of our deadlines are coming up with our HUD, we're working on the LSA right now, the longitudinal system analysis. And so we have not met as a committee, but we do, we're continuing to provide monthly data completeness reports, and we're working on establishing a data quality management plan, a DQMP. We need help. We need help with the DQMP. It's not supposed to be created by the HMIS lead. It's supposed to be a document to hold the HMIS lead accountable and to certain requirements. And so just putting this out there that our HUD capacity, HMIS capacity building grant will be going through June, and it'll be ending. And this is one of our big grant objectives. And so in order to fulfill the full grant, we have to have a DQMP established by next June. Paul and Sage and Drew have been doing some involvement in it, but it's kind of petered out. And so I'm just letting you guys know that we'll be reaching out and asking for involvement on, you know, how to hold the HMIS accountable, and how to have, you know, agreement beyond just their policies.
Thank you, Veronica. Is there any comments, questions for Veronica? Any public comment? Quiet bunch today. We're going to move on to ad hoc committee reports. Veronica, do you want to go over the point in time count housing, the HIC count, and your recommended action?
Yes. So the point in time count ad hoc committee for 2023 has met twice, and we have a recommended date to hold the count on, and we're recommending Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. It's required by HUD to be in the last 10 days of January, and this is the only Wednesday that falls in that period, and that's traditionally when we do it. The committee is recommending that we change our methodology slightly. It's kind of a big change. Our previous methodology was called a census enumeration, where we would try to physically count every person experiencing homelessness in our community. We would go out at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and try to find people where they're sleeping. This has over time presented issues, some of them safety issues, because who wants to see some stranger with flashlights walking around your encampment at 5 o'clock in the morning? It's also created some barriers to gathering accurate information. And so the ad hoc committee is recommending that we change from a full canvas counting every person to doing a non-random sample enumeration, excuse me. We would do this based upon historical information that we know, in addition to the geospatial data that we collected in the point in time count app, the Counting Us app. So when we did surveys last year, or this last February, when a survey was completed, we actually were able to tag the exact location where that person was. And so we actually have a map, a grid of where those people were last year. And so what we're recommending is that instead of trying to count every single corner of our community, which has really truly never happened because of the large just inaccessible wilderness, we think that it would be better to be able to target the areas that we know there's going to be folks experiencing homelessness, to do our best to gather as much information, but knowing that we're going to be missing certain areas. The Simtech Solutions, the company that sponsors the Counting Us app, they've offered assistance in identifying where those different, they go by census tracts. So which census tracts, based on our knowledge and last year's count, which ones we should select. And so what we are bringing before the board today is requesting approval for the date of the count, the starting time of the count at 9 a.m. as opposed to previous times of 5 or 6, and changing the methodology from a census enumeration to a non-random sample enumeration. Any questions?
Veronica, can I just make sure I understand, like, practically what will be different? So it sounds like, practically speaking, it'll start later in the morning and there will be fewer locations to go explore.
Yes, and those fewer locations, we're going to take them out. It's going to be an informed, like, are we certain there's not going to be anybody there, like, to the best of our knowledge, before we actually exclude an area.
Okay.
And we're going to work on having warming centers. So locations like building bridges or the Arbor or other drop-in centers, we're going to work back with them to encourage them to conduct surveys in those locations and advertise them as, hey, come and, get some food and get a backpack. So that's the other thing, that it's not part of the presentation or the request, but I also wanted to share that Partnership Health Plan of California will be providing about 350 backpacks for us. The backpacks will include a blanket, a beanie.
She just muted herself.
I accidentally muted Veronica. I did not mean to mute you. I was letting someone in and I accidentally muted you. So sorry about that. I was letting Karen in and then hit mute on you. I was not trying to stop you.
Yeah. So the backpacks will have a blanket, a beanie, some hygiene supplies, something else I can't remember. And they're looking into life straws, which are straws that come with a filter inside them, to where you can put it in non-potable water and it'll become potable on the other end of the straw. Yeah, so any other questions?
Veronica, will people still be going out to specific sites and making the account a visual count?
Yes, but at 9 a.m. instead of 6 a.m.
So if the number comes out, I know this is just speculation, but if the number comes out dramatically different, you just put in whatever that will be.
Are you asking if it's dramatically different, what can we do?
Yeah.
We would explore, we would look at our duplication to see if there's any duplication of counts. We would really try to understand where those extra surveys came from. They'll be geospatially tagged. And so we'll be able to see where they were at. And so like, let's say that a person was there at 9 and counted them, and then another group comes in at 10 and counts them. Well, those surveys are going to be in the same exact spot, and it's going to show us. So we're going to know that that's probably a duplication, and so we'll take that out.
And so you'll still be hitting coast, north coast, east. You'll have all the different.
Yes, exactly. But we probably won't go up to the Tehama County line.
Which we'd probably, I would add about the backpacks. My brother has done surveys in Lake County, and what he had mentioned about the backpacks is they provide this additional thing in that if somebody's holding a backpack, they were counted. And so he said visually, you're like, oh, that person's already been counted because you've been distributing back counts. And Lake County, they were brightly colored, but it seemed like an interesting kind of side effect of the backpacks is you've got a visual sense. Oh, somebody's already been there and counted those people.
Is there any questions on the proposed motion besides Judy? My brain's not all here on Monday.
Well, I'm just, I'm happy to see that you're going to try to do it differently.
Veronica, what happens if we come up extremely on the other side? If we come up extremely short, are we gonna, I would assume we would investigate possibly somebody.
We would do that if we get something that's not within expected ranges. We're going to look at why is this happening? Where are the extras, or what are we missing? We'll be able to tell based upon the geotagging of where those surveys were done. We'll be able to look at that and say, and probably be able to see a whole part of the county that didn't get surveyed. And so because we're getting live information from while the survey is being taken, it gives us way more insights, many more insights into why what is happening, as opposed to just getting back clipboard surveys.
Okay.
I think though that I would hope that we are prepared to see a significant drop in street level homelessness, because I do think we have housed an enormous amount of people in the last year or two.
I agree.
So if we see a 25% reduction, that could be true.
Yeah. I also think anytime we change the methodology, we kind of, there's just an understanding that there's going to be
there's some risk there. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think of all the moving parts here, like what Megan just said, that we have housed more, and then, so I think let's just look at the number and see where we are. Hard to anticipate.
All right, if there's no other questions or discussions, I need a motion for the recommended action.
And there's language on the agenda.
Sage?
Sorry, what?
I just needed a motion for the recommended action for the ad hoc report for the point in time count.
And you're calling me, are you calling me out?
Yeah.
So I will move, move, Sage, and then you can just second it. There's nobody on this call that's going to vote for doing it at 6 o'clock in the morning anymore.
It's not, it's at 9 a.m.
I will move or I will second. Do the thing.
Do the thing.
Thanks, Sage and Jackie. Any discussion, public comment? Not hearing any roll call, Veronica?
Carly, do you have it, or you want me to do it?
I got it. Thank you. Teresa DeSimone?
Yes.
Jacqueline Williams?
Yes.
Wendy Novotny?
Yes.
Joanna Olson?
Yes.
Amanda Archer?
Yes.
Judy Albert?
Yes.
Sage Wolf? Sage, I'm assuming you said yes, but
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
there you are. Sorry.
I don't-
It cut out. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Dan McIntyre.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to board protocols and governance. And I know we've been working on the full membership meeting, so Veronica, do you want to go over that? The schedule?
Yeah, sorry, I was not looking at my shared screen. So we put together the 2023 DOC board and full membership meeting schedule. It is included in your packet on page right after
7.
the minute.
Page
Page
7.
7. Page 7. The January 2023 and 2024 meetings I scheduled for the second Monday in the month because the third Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Memorial Day. I also scheduled the February meetings differently, but for the fourth Monday of the month in observance of, I think it's President's Day. I also moved the June meeting to the fourth Monday of the month, as the third Monday is Juneteenth. And I also wanted to ask the board if we want to keep our December meeting or if we want to permanently cancel it, because it seems every year we always cancel it. So those are the things that are not the normally scheduled weeks.
I would suggest we cancel it just from looking at what our attendance is today on Monday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a quorum on the days that we do meet, or the months that we did meet. We weren't required to have a quorum.
Yeah, I would just say we just take the December 18th off of the calendar unless anybody else on the board objects.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so with that change, we would need a motion to approve this schedule for 2023 and rolling into 2024.
I move that we approve the schedule for 2023.
Thank you, Judy.
I should have let you do that, Sage.
I can second that.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there any further discussion or questions?
I have a comment. Do we want to approve it with the change of taking off next year's December meeting?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite clear enough if it was in the motion or not.
I have no other questions. Roll call, Carly.
Should we do public comment? Roll call? I think we have to do public comment before roll call.
I did. All right. Any public comment discussions? Oh, Carly, roll call, please.
Please remember to unmute and say yes, no, or abstain. Teresa DeSimone,
Yes.
Jacqueline Williams,
Yes.
Wind Novotny,
Yes.
Joanna Olson,
Yes.
Amanda Archer,
Yes.
Judy Albert,
Yes.
Sage Wolf,
Yes.
Dan McIntyre.
Yes.
All done.
Thank you.
Dan, I did have a quick comment. It's not public comment, but on meetings. That's okay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to just give the board a heads up. There's no decision that needs to be made quite yet, but it does sound as if the state is making some changes, again, related to the Brown Act, and our ability to continue to meet remotely, 100% remotely, looks likely to not be allowed in the future. I think I did read that as long as the public health emergency is in place, we can continue to meet remotely, but when that ends, there's reverting back to allowing very limited participation remotely for publicly, meetings that are governed by the Brown Act. So it was something like, if you're an elected member, you can only attend 2 meetings per year remotely. A quorum of people do need to be physically present. So it just was going to make it much more difficult to continue to meet remotely in the way that we have been. It's not happening yet, but I wanted to let you know that's on the horizon.
I just want to put in there for Carly, whenever she records the minutes later, that item is actually agendized later on under announcements under section 8. So Carly, whenever you do these minutes later, you'll want to record what Megan just shared under H, under announcements.
Sorry, I did an early H1.
It's okay. I wasn't going to stop you, Megan. All right, well, next thing we're going to go on to review the responses for recommendations 6 and 16 to the state audit. Megan, do you want to do that? Or
yeah, no, I do, because I've been slogging through this. So just to bring the board up to speed, if you remember, so back in 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, mostly Veronica had to go through a very arduous auditing process with the state auditor, because the Mendocino COC was one of 5 COCs selected to be part of a statewide audit on homelessness overall. The audit really was primarily focused at the state level, but they also picked 5 COCs to do a pretty extensive audit on. So if you all remember, there was something like, we didn't have 16 recommendations, because the recommendations, there were 16 recommendations, might have been 20 actually, only about 10 of which applied to us. And that I have had to submit a 30-day update, and then a 60-day update, and then a 6-month update, and then a year-long update for all of these recommendations to the state auditor. And it's kind of come, most of them we were able to resolve. For example, this is one of the more low-lying ones, but they were recommending that we use a mobile application for our point in time count. So I was like, yay, we've done that. There were other recommendations that we were able to meet, because they were kind of already in the works anyway. But there's 2 of them that have sat here, and I just, even though I go back and forth with the auditor and trying to resolve them, I just haven't been able to produce the documentation to demonstrate that this issue is put to bed. So what myself and the auditor contact decided was I would bring these specifically to the COC board, have you discuss them, have you make a motion, and then I have the documentation to show that the county brought this item to the board for consideration, and the board decided this or that, right? So I'm just going to walk you through the first one really fast. Recommendation number 6, this is one of the ones I was unable to resolve. The state auditor has stated that we need to conduct a comprehensive gaps analysis. Our strategic plan would not count for this. Our HAP plan would not count for this. All of the planning that we've been doing over the past years did not meet that technical gaps analysis. So my perspective from a staff, helping to staff the COC, and particularly as Veronica's supervisor, we're doing a whole lot of things, and doing a kind of stopping what we're doing, or setting aside the momentum that we have now to contract, and I assume pay for, or find some way to do what would meet a criteria as a technical gaps analysis, has not seemed to be a priority of the COC at this time. So that would be what we could discuss today. And if the COC is in agreement that a gaps analysis is not a priority at this time, and that the COC is willing to temporarily forego a comprehensive gaps analysis at this time, that would meet my requirements as being audited to bring that to you for discussion. So I'll pause there and allow some discussion.
I'd like to add a little bit on where this came from. Technically, HUD in the in the regulations about the COC program, the COC board has the responsibility of conducting an annual gaps analysis. Now, HUD has never provided any guidance on what this gaps analysis should include. There's no direction on how to complete it. I've requested assistance from our TA in the past, but they have stated that most COCs have never conducted a gaps analysis and that HUD isn't going to be enforcing anything regarding it as far as they could tell at that time. And this was about a year ago. And so I just want the COC to know that yes, you are supposed to do a gaps analysis each year, but it hardly ever gets done and we have no idea what it would be, what it would consist of.
Can I ask, so I'm just guessing a gaps analysis means where there's a gap in the overall services that the continuum of care provides?
So it's taken me years just to get this little bit of an understanding of it. You're supposed to say, this is what we have, within our system. And then this is the need that we have in the county. And where are those gaps? When you overlay them, where are your holes? Where do you not have services that people have needs?
Which, Judy, to your point, I felt like our strategic planning process where we identified where we needed to spend time was the useful tool that HUD wanted you to make sure you were doing, is like looking at your community. What are you missing? But we did not call it a gaps analysis. Veronica's right. We don't have any, this is what a gaps analysis looks like. And the auditor would not accept our strategic plan as a gaps analysis. So that's kind of where we came through. And we have had to do so much planning and reporting for all these different kinds of, coming up with identifying barriers, identifying what's missing. I mean, it's just endless. And I was frustrated that none of the existing, what I think meets the spirit of a gaps analysis was acceptable to this process.
Dan, I would add that we never thought it would tell us anything in addition to what we already know. And so, I mean, that's why you do this stuff, is what are we missing? And so I think I'm comfortable in that we rely on the information in the strategic plan. I mean, 15 years from now, when we get really good with our data, we may want to do this too, but I really don't believe in a community, even as distributed as Mendocino County, that there literally are significant gaps that we are not aware of to some degree. So, and the fact that nobody else is doing it is a really wonderful argument for maybe taking it by. So that's my.
So the only thing but you guys know, but I mean, normally when you get an audit finding, you then have to create a corrective action plan, send back to them. So,
what's interesting about this process though, Judy, is that the state auditor has no right or whatever. Authority, thank you. Authority to audit a COC. They only can audit us. So they were very clear, you, Megan County, you're responsible to bring this to the COC, and the COC has to say yes or no, right? So that finding will be over because I have fulfilled my responsibility to bring it to you. And you'll see there's a similarity to the next one, right?
Okay.
When
that's good.
I think just, I guess my 2 cents is, can we agendize this yearly, that we just look at it just in case at some point in the future it becomes something that's needed for funding? And as we change our point in time, we look at our statistics and the strategic planning committee goes forward. Or if a tool becomes available that's easy for us to adopt, that we at least have on record that we've put this in as a yearly look.
Yearly consideration. I like
yearly
that.
consideration, so we can cover ourselves and remember in a year that we need to look at it again.
I like that idea, and I think the auditor would too. So we could, the motion could be something about temporarily forego a gaps analysis at this time, but agendize a what did you just call it?
Like a yearly a yearly, that it comes in front of the board for yearly consideration.
Next
And that
November.
we're looking at the statistics, we're changing our point in time count right now. And that maybe we put that report also inside of one of the committees. I don't know, I would probably say the strategic planning committee. And that way we're covering ourselves and giving ourselves a chance in case something changes that we didn't expect.
I like that idea. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how to word it. Do you have some thought in mind, Veronica, on how to?
Yes, I absolutely do. I think that we could add it to the governance charter's description of the strategic planning committee, and because it describes the responsibilities of each committee, and so it could be an addition to that section.
Okay, so for this motion, it would be approve the recommendation. Well, I'm not exactly sure how to word this, and this is going to be important to them, so I want to get the motion right.
So in this, it says temporarily, and I don't think we're saying we're going to make an annual consideration. It's not like we're saying no forever, right? So
right, so maybe it's direct staff to add consideration of a gaps analysis on an annual basis to the area of responsibility of the strategic planning committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Carly, did you get that? Because I don't really remember now already what I said. But it was direct staff to add an annual consideration of a gaps analysis to the responsibilities of the strategic planning committee. Does that work, Veronica?
Yes, and I'm actually looking at the charter now, and I see where we can add it. Because I mean, the committee is already responsible for the development of a continuum of care plan, and so we can just kind of revise that to include a gaps analysis.
To include a gap analysis, right?
Do we need to add for you, Megan, that at this time we don't see a comprehensive gap analysis to be the priority of this COC and that we revisit it? Does that need to be part of the?
I think it would be helpful, Wind, if that was, because I'd like to be able to mark this as complete. And they're so they're very, you know, an audit. This is the first time I'd been through an audit process. It's very like, where is the language that says this? So that's why I was trying to be like, okay, I have to find something very specific. Me saying it's not really a priority for us right now was not good enough for him. So I needed something like more specific. So that would be helpful when if we added that as well. But at this time,
well, this year's consideration is
not
result in didn't result in the need that the continuum of care decided that we needed to conduct a gap analysis, and we continued when we intend to review this annually.
I would think so. I feel a little weird saying we're not prioritizing doing a gaps analysis, because it doesn't seem like we've already done a needs assessment work. So could we word it not so much that like we're not prioritizing doing a comprehensive gap assessment, but we're saying at this time we are utilizing the needs analysis that we have completed as part of our strategic plan, and we will explore doing a more comprehensive gaps analysis in the future. But so that way we're at least acknowledging we're not just like flying blind here.
Yeah.
And we've been doing work on this. I don't really want to tell the state or whoever the auditors are that like, I don't need your recommendations for decision making. We're just gonna,
Right. I know. I think that point is well taken, Saja. We're not ignoring the gaps. We're just not going to do your official gaps analysis at this moment.
Right.
We feel like we get the gaps.
Right. We have done a needs analysis as part of our strategic planning process, and we will explore doing a comprehensive gaps analysis in the future
As needed. Because the way we do what we do right now, does provide that ability to identify those issues. So
Mhm.
it's not like we're asleep at the switch.
Okay.
So
I drafted some language. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Please.
Approve the recommendation of county staff to temporarily forego conducting a comprehensive gaps analysis at this time, as the strategic plan to address homelessness in Mendocino County includes detailed information to inform where to direct new resources. Which is what a gaps analysis would do.
Do we want to say, add in their direct staff to add an annual review of gaps analysis to the responsibility of the strategic planning committee as well?
Right.
Just like
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Because then the message is not no, it's not now. Not needed now
Mhm.
Right.
is our judgment.
And it leaves room that if for some reason some like nice tool is developed by HUD, the
Mhm.
strategic planning committee would use that tool to do this annual gaps analysis.
Right.
Okay, that's really helpful. I think I've got enough. You got enough, Veronica, to work with?
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a motion though, right?
Oh,
Megan?
yeah. Yes, I do.
I
When?
make a motion to do everything that we just said.
Right.
That
Veronica
girl.
just said, including the strategic plan, and we have the needs assessment, and it'll be in the committee, and we'll look at it annually.
Thank you, Wendy. Is there a second for that motion?
I can second that.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I just make public comment. This is
Yeah,
Anna.
that was next. Angelica, public comment, go ahead.
I just wanted to, we're talking about, Megan, I thought it was recommendation number 1 from the report and not 6, or I'm not sure if we're talking about the same report. But is that the one where you all responded yes, that we would do it, or that the county would do it?
I'm looking at the report I was pretty sure it was 6.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
It's
Okay.
6, yeah.
I probably looked at a different report. I hit the link that Veronica provided on the agenda.
Oh, does that not work?
It worked, and it took me to, and it recommendation number 1 in the report was the one that referenced the gap.
So what's weird, yeah. It's sort of frustrating. So the report numbered the recommendations for us. So we had, 7 recommendations. When I do my reporting, there's like 20 recommendations total and only a certain number. So it renumbered it. But you're right, Angelica. So in the report, it refers it to as number 1. The auditors now talk to me about it as if it's number 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the initial response was that the county did feel that there was a need for a gap analysis. And so you provided the strategic plan and they said that's not enough. That doesn't meet enough. So now so in terms of, I have seen some gaps analysis prepared by CFPs. And what I've found them to be is that they are more like consumer oriented. They ask more input from, the communities, the folks that are impacted. Plus there's a lot more like specific and explicit data. So I definitely think that the way you are going in your motion is the right way, instead of just saying, no, we're not going to do it, because I definitely think that it would be good to have a gaps analysis done. And I have seen it done in other COCs. They do it. Some of them do it through work group, like they create a work group to do it and create ideas about the best way to go about doing that. And I've seen them do like one comprehensive one, and then annually they kind of update that comprehensive gaps analysis. And just the numbers, it's just like forces communities to be more explicit and more deliberate about the numbers, the money, the funds that are needed, and how many units are needed, and all of that sort of thing. So,
Angelica, if you had an example of one of those that we could all use just to make sure we're all talking about the same level of detail, that might really help us.
Yeah, I can provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the input, Angelica. It does seem like a good way to go in the future, next year. Any other public comment? Cannot hear any other public comment and discussion being over. Carly, roll call, please.
Yes, Teresa DeSimone,
Yes.
Jacqueline Williams,
Yes.
Lynn Novotny,
Yes.
Joanna Olson,
Yes.
Amanda Archer,
Yes.
Judy Albert,
Yes.
Sage Wolf,
Yes.
and Dan McIntyre.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next recommendation, which is 16. According to Megan, I didn't find this one on the list. Well, I didn't read down to this one, but Megan, if you want to go over. The board
Yes.
recommendation.
Right, so on the reporting that I have to do, it's number 16. And in the book, it might be a different number. So I don't know, I gotta find it. Anyway, so we were required, let's see, in the book, it is recommendation number 3. But so this was another topic that I would say I don't think any of the COCs totally agreed with the auditor on, and we definitely didn't. So the auditor has a chart of this 16 different categories of entities that they're saying we are required to have in our board. And Mendocino County did not have 2 check marks on the colleges line item, colleges, category and business category. So I would say that the majority of the COCs who did not have all of the 16 categories argued that the federal regulation did not require all of those categories on the board, but that the federal regulations indicated that those 16 categories should be included in solicitation for membership in the COC overall. We were not successful in that argument with the auditor, and the recommendation to the Mendocino County was to bring to the board consideration of essentially adding those 2 categories, colleges and businesses, to our board. If you all remember, what we did instead was we spent a long time in the membership committee kind of revisiting the whole membership structure overall. Dan did a ton of research on what different COCs did. They were sort of all over the place. We came back with some fairly complicated recommendation about how to change the categories of the COC board overall. I would say the board was not super excited about those changes. And we kind of set it aside for the time being. We had some vacancies that we needed to clean up. We still have some vacancies we needed to clean up. So there was some more internal kind of in our existing membership structure we needed to work on. So that fell by the wayside, to be honest. And even though this board did say in February that they were not going to pursue a membership change at this time, that wasn't quite enough for the auditor again. So the auditor is asking me again, our duty as the county is to bring this to you for your consideration. And so I'm hoping to put this to bed as well by a potential motion that states that the board hasn't analyzed and discussed the revisions to the current composition, and that, if this is how the board feels, the board does not intend to implement recommendation number 16 at this time. That's now ready for your discussion.
Sage.
Can I so move? This seems fairly cut and dry. I would make a motion.
We can discuss it after you make the motion. Is there a second for Sage's motion?
Maybe I'm premature.
I can second that.
All right. Any discussion on Sage's motion after she energetically made a motion?
I was just going to say, I'm wondering if the colleges are where there are larger universities and where there are more homeless students or students that are struggling, to find housing, but with our small community college. So I don't know, maybe some of them are, homeless and sleeping in their cars. And is the idea with the businesses also is that you get feedback from local businesses in terms of is it for more of an impact statement of how homelessness is affecting the community of business people? Is that, why those two entities? Is it just, I'm just curious.
Well, those were the two entities. I mean, really, what's funny about this one, Judy, and again, I was new to the audit process. The auditor was looking at some language, some federal language that they were interpreting to say that these 16 categories should be represented. It's not that they didn't actually have any opinion about whether the colleges or businesses should be included. They felt like they're supposed to make sure we're following what they saw as the federal law.
Oh, okay.
So the problem is that, and Veronica was really clear on this. There's some quite different interpretations of that, like 2-sentence language in the Federal Register about what COC boards should be. And I will point out some other counties that had the same recommendation just said, no, we disagree. No, they're just like, no, we're not even going to talk about it. We're just like, not going to do it. So we actually were like, okay, well, we'll think about our board and like go through this process. Right. But, it's really a difference of interpretation of this specific language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I submitted an ask a question or AAQ to the HUD Exchange about this specific question. And they responded that the only requirements are listed in the first bullet point, which is what we align with what our COC and our understanding of it is. And that the second bullet point is only recommendations on areas that you could reach out. So that first one is you have to have someone with formerly or currently homeless person, but we call it person with lived experience of homelessness, as well as representative of the service providers. That's it. Service providers and a person that's experienced homelessness. That's what HUD said. And that's also, I asked our ESG HCD grant rep the same question. And both and HCD came back with the same response. You're only required to have a person with lived experience and be representative of your services.
Huh? Thank you.
So I don't know where the state auditor got it, but that's the way their lawyers interpreted it. They're the only ones who've ever interpreted it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and I can't remember. I will note that the auditors are saying there's 16 categories that must be represented. There's several COCs that have like 5 or 6 board members. So they weren't necessarily the ones that were chosen to be audited in these 5, but this is not a widely shared viewpoint that all 16 of these categories have to be represented.
The majority of the COCs don't even have 16 members or
right.
board seats. Like the majority of them don't. Very few.
Right. There's the theory and then practice.
Yeah. So I'll leave it to you.
Was there any other discussion?
In answer to a comment that Judy made, I'm not aware about students at Mendo Junior College sleeping in their cars, but food insecurity because of the just sheer economics of our community is real, because we do support students with food bank help. But my gut tells me if they need help with food, they probably need help with housing as well. So, but is it a huge, or is it a big number that that we aren't paying attention to? I don't know.
There's definitely housing that's needed out there. I'm working at the college. I know there's definitely conversations about students that are unhoused or underhoused.
Right.
I know I made the motion. I was all excited and like, let's just go, but I want to make a comment about, I think that it's good for the board, for us to like continuously look at our board structure and what seats we have, and are they being useful? Do we have seats that are consistently not getting filled, or do we have seats that are being filled, but then the organizations are not being able to participate consistently. And I think it's a good idea for us to consistently do that and see, like, are there entities like the college or like a business that want to participate, but we don't have a seat for? And I don't want us to make this motion or do this thing and just let it be that. But I think having a kind of continuous process around looking at our board structure is a really good idea. But for the sake of this recommendation, I feel totally comfortable going back and saying, thank you for the recommendation, but we're not going to proceed. We're, you know, like, I think that we're right on in how we're interpreting HUD requirements of us. And there are other ways we can structure it to still be in line with HUD's requirements of us. And we might look at that at some point, but yeah, I feel very comfortable saying to the state, no, thank you.
I think that's an important point, Sage, and I appreciate that, because I very much agree. And we had gone down this conversation around membership, and it's still a worthy conversation, and it's still not over. But I think that, right, but the auditor wants this very narrow, like, yes or no. So that's what I'm trying to give him right now. But we definitely have more work to do on membership. And I think as a goal in 2023, when we're setting our, like, you know, New Year's resolutions, kind of really finishing that conversation would be important.
Yeah.
And we may end up with a college or a business, or we may end up shrinking down to 5 members and do like the exact opposite of what the state auditor was saying. So I started to be like, we may end up with something very different than what they were recommending. So maybe we should kind of close this one out with the auditor now, rather than keep having them kind of be this presence in this larger membership conversation, which we're willing to have, but not necessarily in the context they want us to have it in.
I always think in this context, when they say businesses, they mean people that are not a part of government agencies.
Right.
And so there are people like me who are not part of a government agency, who also could represent the needs of a business. So it's kind of odd that you would need just somebody to just pay attention to the business stuff. Some of us have our lives in that pond all the time.
Right.
Because, you know, when you think of the issues, it's staffing, it's, you know, all the costs and, you know, healthcare provision and all that. So those are the issues that business people are challenged with, as we all are. So I just don't see how going after somebody, what right now that might add in addition to our current experience across the team.
And I'll remind us that what this opened us up in our original conversation is, we don't have a designated seat for a tribal entity. We'd really talked about wanting to have that. So, and then we were like, well, this is getting really big, and that becomes unwieldy and another kind of problem when you just add every important group that needs to be represented. It's actually far more than 16, which is impractical. So then you kind of, that was where our conversation was going. We were like, you know what, our original plan wasn't that bad. So maybe we'll just stick with what we have right now while we continue to mull this over.
Yeah.
And just as a side note, I wanted to share, I noticed in the auditor's PDF report that's online, it says that they're selected recommendations, not all of the recommendations. So the numbers that Megan is referencing is the full number of recommendations that they provided in their report back to us that's not publicly available.
You're right. Thank you. Veronica. I was like, I know there's more than 5. What happened here?
Yes.
Because I respond to a different link. Yeah.
I'm not worried, Megan. I know you can count.
I really just want to be done with it. It's like, and they want us to be done with it too. They're like, please just bring it to your board and just be like, can you just stop saying pending on this one? Like, we don't even care if it's yes or no, just finish it, you know? So.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the motion before we go to public comment? Any public comment on this?
I'll just say, I mean, I said this before, I definitely do not agree with the auditor's interpretation. My only concern with just saying, like in the statement in the response saying the COC does not want to follow your recommendation without providing context. It's kind of just like flipping your finger without giving context. and it could come, back to bite you in the, later
Angelica,
on.
do you, I
So
was,
I mean, I would suggest like at least, maybe you say, I mean, they didn't accept your response that you disagree with them, but maybe if you provide maybe something like the Mendocino County COC board does comply with federal regulations by including members of relevant organizations. And while the regulations mandate that COCs reserve at least one board seat to a person that is homeless or formerly homeless, or as Veronica describes, a person with lived experience, it does not similarly require mandated seats for colleges or businesses. And the COC will continue to invite to its broader membership members of the local community college and businesses. But after consideration and multiple discussion, the COC board, consisting currently of it's 18 reserved seats for other relevant organizations, has determined that reserving board seats for businesses or colleges is not appropriate, but will engage in further outreach for this community as the COC carries out its duties.
I think that's a beautiful motion. And can we,
and I think the
can someone just move that?
I think the charter dictates, right, that every year it reevaluates board members and configuration on an annual basis. So I think you just end it like that.
Yeah. What she said.
Angelica said, yeah.
So can I amend my motion to say what Angelica said? And can we somehow capture that in some sort of?
I just summarized what you all were saying,
beautiful.
but I heard from you all.
That was super beautiful, Angelica. I really appreciate that. You could read my impatience in what I was putting in the staff report, and I appreciate that the COC board is actually saying what I probably meant to say. So I I was like, oh my God, I have to end this.
And we did share with the auditor the responses that we got from HUD and from HCD. And so we've made it really clear that, hey, we don't agree with this, but sure, we'll take it to the board and see what they say.
I think the other thing that we know amongst this group, and that Angelica and Megan both reminded us, is when we were looking at this, we prioritized equity and inclusion over whatever you want to call this vocational focus. And I'm proud of that. So it makes it easier for me to say, we're really more concerned and interested in this other that's not on your list. But
I mean, we may feel that there is an absence of relevant organizations that are not the ones you think are more relevant. Like we actually have a different sense of what where we may need to spend our energy.
Right.
I'm not sure what to do about Angelica's beautifully stated motion, because is that something Carly can capture maybe?
I can off of the YouTube.
Yeah, the recording.
Yes.
So say who seconded Sage's first motion? Was it Teresa?
Yeah.
Sage and Teresa, you're good with Angelica's revisions, her nicely
Yeah.
lawyerly worded revisions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is
So
there any
Sage
other
moves what
discussion?
Angelica said, and Teresa seconded it. And if Carly needs any kind of just help from Angelica, making sure that we got captured those language, we'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angelica. That was very well stated. Okay, if there's no other public comment, Carly, roll call, please.
Please remember to unmute and say yes, no, or abstain. Teresa DeSimone,
Yes.
Jacqueline Williams,
Yes.
Wynn Novotny,
Yes.
Joanna Olson,
Yes.
Amanda Archer,
Yes.
Judy Albert,
Yes.
Sage Wolf,
Yes.
and Dan McIntyre.
Yes.
I thank you so much for this. I'm trying to just tie up a lot of loose ends that became very unraveled during the pandemic, and this was one of them. So I just really appreciate the board's support in getting some stuff off my plate, off Veronica's plate, so we can continue to focus on all the amazing work you were doing.
Veronica, we're gonna go down to funding, and I see you are requesting a special meeting for HAP. So I'm assuming
Yes.
that's next week.
So the half round 4 grant application is due November 30th, which is next Wednesday. There was some information that I wasn't able to gather. Really long story short, my capacity has not allowed me to get ahead of this grant application, and it is required to be agendized at a board meeting. It has to be, the full completed application has to be on the agenda. I wasn't able to get it completed for today, so I'm requesting that next Monday, we hold a COC board meeting, a special meeting of the board for the topic only of the HAP 4 application.
Well, if that's what's needed, then we're gonna have to do it. Are we gonna have a quorum for next
Yeah, I
Monday?
think we better check to see who will be able to.
It doesn't, there's no action that's required of the
Okay.
board. It just has to be publicly posted. So it's mostly, we need to give an opportunity for the public to provide feedback on the application.
Okay.
By doing it on Monday, it gives me Tuesday and Wednesday to make any updates or changes that are requested at that meeting. That's why I'm not asking for it on Wednesday. So I have time to accommodate any requested changes, but there's no action required of the board.
Okay, in that case, what do you need from us? A motion for a special meeting or just for me and
I don't
Jackie?
even know if we need a motion, but I wanted to bring it up. That's why it's possible action. I don't even know if you guys want to take formal action on it, but you can. I'm just requesting to do a special meeting a week from today.
So make an agenda for a special meeting on the 28th.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Megan,
I think, Dan, we can just take that request and honor it and say, okay, right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
But okay, but what if nobody shows up?
We can
It
still,
doesn't
it's
matter.
still agendized. We
Publicly
just
available.
can't take action.
Okay, all right.
yes.
Public
And
can
I
still
don't think
comment,
you,
though.
yes,
Yeah, I'll
and
be
that's the
there.
main purpose.
Yeah.
I also included the template page for the HAP 4 grant, like the funding allocation. They haven't announced how much the allocations are yet, so they're asking for a percentage. I believe that I can complete this based upon the strategic plan, but I wanted to present it to the board. It's not actually in your packet, but it is available online with the COC agenda. So it's right there on our COC website. And so I wanted to really just get permission or direction on how I should complete that. Do I need to work back with somebody, or can I just do it based upon the strategic plan and we review it next Monday?
I would do it based on the strategic plan. That's what we put our effort into.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Then that's all I needed. Does anyone have any questions on HAP 4 or anything? Anything HAP related? A lot.
Okay, we're gonna move on to, is there any other, I don't see any other updates, Meg, Veronica? No, okay.
No
Move on
additional
to-
funding dates, but I can entertain questions if folks have them.
Any projects anybody wants to talk about?
I wanted to really quickly just announce that Project Room Key is finally closing. We literally have one person left in Project Room Key who's probably moving into the Ukiah Senior Apartments, fingers crossed, in like a week or two. So I just wanted to announce that program, that pandemic era program, is finally ending, and I'm looking forward to having some outcomes to report at some point in the near future as well.
When?
I was just clapping. I've been gone, and it's just being a community member, seeing the amount of work that's been done by this COC and our partners and the county is just unbelievable. And so thank you.
Any other announcements? Megan, did you want to talk any more on the Brown Act? Are you good with what you said?
Yeah, sorry, I did that prematurely. It was the heads up that there might be some changes to the Brown Act that would require us to meet in person in the future, but I already talked about it.
Megan, have those been released yet, or are they pending?
I think they're still pending.
You think so, Dan? I thought it was a law that was kind of passed. It was encapsulated in some bill, but I actually am not totally sure, I guess.
We'd have to go dig because the last time I saw it was pending, but maybe it's just because the version I saw wasn't signed by the governor. But it is buried in something else, Veronica. It's not easy to find.
It might be AB 1944, open and public meetings. I Googled it.
Probably. Jackie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to announce that we're getting ready to kick off the annual Ukiah Daily Journal Food Bank Drive. This year, we will break our record for the number of Thanksgiving baskets for people once again. And last Saturday, I think it was 191 were delivered to disabled and seniors, where our goal is $100,000. And I think there were several foundations that learned more about us during COVID. We will start the goal to raise $100,000 with already having received 70.
Wow.
And so there's a part of me that's just like scared, scared and grateful. So again, watch for more good news about the food bank in days ahead.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you guys for your support. So many of you give. I appreciate it.
Okay, and then I guess we need to officially deal with the December meeting of this year. Since it's on
the 19th. Yeah.
I make a motion that we cancel December 19th board meeting.
Thanks, Wynn. Second.
I'd
Jackie?
second, but I'm not sure if I'm officially counted here today because I was late for the roll call in the beginning.
You're here.
You can.
You're here.
I'll second that then.
Thanks, Karen. Is there any further discussion on that?
Thank you.
Any public comment? Any public comment? Roll call, Carly.
Yes, Teresa DeSimone.
Yes.
Jacqueline Williams.
Yes.
Wynn Novotny.
Yes.
Joanna Olson.
Yes.
Amanda Archer.
Yes.
Judy Albert. Judy, are you there? Oh.
Yes, sorry.
Sage Wolf.
Yeah.
Dan McIntyre.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, if that was all, the next board meeting will be January 9th, 2023. Seems weird we're talking 2023 already.
And we'll do some research into the Route Act and what it requires. We're not sure if it's going to be teleconferenced or in the big stir room, but we'll make accommodations and announce it in advance as much as we can.
Out of curiosity, do we have any data on whether or not we've been better attended virtually than we were in person?
I'm sure it's there. I just haven't processed it. But somebody really wanted to.
I mean, our attendance virtually, I think, has been good, but strangely, people did attend COC meetings in the past too. It did have pretty good. Maybe we've become more boring. I don't know, but you don't think so, Sage? I just feel like this was these packed rooms. Maybe we had more public. We might have had more public.
I think we had more
think we
public.
had
What
more
I worry
public.
about is the people that have to travel. You know,
Yeah,
I was hoping that we would see more participation from the coast because it's a big ask, you know.
it is.
Anna used to make that drive and it was
Yeah.
a big ask.
Mhm.
I don't think that we have significantly more public participation, but I do think we have more. I mean, I don't know. It's still the same core members of people that have been coming for a long time. And then, I mean, there are some new folks, but I don't know. I like the benefit that our virtual meetings have of like that we are a big county and don't have to pull everybody to the same location. It makes it easier. But.
I was a little bit surprised that the state was making the kind of in-person rules as strict as they were. I always prefer in-person, but I do think that the ability for people to participate just by watching or being remote is also a value. And what I wish we could get better at is a hybrid. I haven't seen hybrid done very well yet, but maybe we're getting closer. It's really hard to do in person and some people remote, but if the technology we could get better at that, that would be a good compromise as well.
It's tough.
I hear most of the feedback about in person for the Board of Supervisors for elected positions too. And I understand you have to make a rule and it kind of swipes around all of us, but we have such a big, large distributed county. It's just really hard to get geographic participation.
I agree with that, Jackie. It does seem like there's a difference between the COC where you're all kind of like volunteer members and a city council or board of supervisors who the appearances of why they want to meet remotely might be different than, you know, for us.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a good holiday.
All right. Thanks.
You too.